Matt, this is kind of off the reservation, but have you had any discussions with Tony Bennett at Virginia?
I talked to him the night we got beat.
Really?
And talked to him, but we texted each other. So,
And what was-
misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
So, no, just obviously he experienced that, but, what stood out to me was more of what he just went through. They had just gotten beat by Furman
Oh, yeah.
on a real tough play, where they were in control of the game, they were late, and had a costly turnover, and it was tough. So for him to think about us when it happens to you, it's a pretty big hole in your stomach because you work so hard to get yourself in great positions. And then, but there is another team out there. But yeah, we've definitely discussed things.
He reached out to you
Yeah, he reached out to me.
right after the game.
Yeah. He said, hide the sharp objects. No, he didn't say that. But it'd make for a good story.
Did you have to, though?
Yeah, at times, like you just, because you spend so much time, just preparing and getting yourself ready and going through things. And obviously, we've been in that position before and had success, and we've been in that position before and not had success. And so, all those experiences weigh on you. So you just try to do everything in your power to prepare your team. So when you have a loss like that, it's really hard. It's really hard to go through. It's hard for your players. It's hard for everybody because you put so much into it.
How did you deal with it?
Nothing. You just got to sit in it. You obviously watch. You obviously, kind of soul search. What you bring out of it is you figure out who's really behind you. And then you figure out that you've done some really good things. Because what it'll get you to do is think you got to change a lot, when in reality you don't. You know what I mean? Because we're doing some really good things, within our conference. We're doing some really good things non-conference. We've had success in the NCAA tournament, getting to the Sweet 16s, multiple ones, and Elite 8s, but we haven't got over that hump. But when you have teams that can make those moves, and then you have those losses, man, it's really hard to take. So, you got to separate the emotion from really factual information that can help your team. Now, if you're changing your team, now you got to dive into that element. You know what I mean? We're not changing our team. We have a lot of the pieces back from last year, so it makes you feel good about it, but it also makes your guys feel good once you kind of go through it. I think that's the piece of it. It's an exercise in pain, but also you're hoping it's going to be an exercise of happiness at the end of the day.
With the pieces you have added with Miles, with Lance, and then obviously with Cam,
Right.
guys like that, do you feel like those are the missing pieces you didn't have last year that can help you do some different things?
Yeah, well, we weren't short on substance or ability. We were short on athleticism and quickness, but we had the right people. I think sometimes that gets lost because now you'll go and get those physical attributes, but then you won't have the same people. So I've always kind of recruited that way, especially in the last 9-10 years, is make sure you have the right guy. And I think you see that with us having the fewest amount of transfers in and out of any high major in the country. It's because people want to get their education here. People made a good decision in terms of processing things. You should bump heads in recruiting with the same people that are like you. So when you recruit somebody and they have 4 or 5 different people, they really don't have a standard of what they're doing, and we probably should get out of that. Because it's not a talent game, it's a production game. But you have to have size, you have to have quickness, you have to have athleticism, you have to have skill. So you have to have those attributes to really put your team together. But if you don't have the makeup and the substance from the people, normally those teams crumble.
You made a big step made defensively last season. What's the next frontier there? What can you do about it?
Who's that? Our team?
You, Purdue.
Oh, Purdue. Okay. We had more talent from athleticism the year before. We didn't have a great one-to-do on that end. I thought last year our guys did a great job. We were one of the best offensive teams in the country against the top 100 in the country. I think we were the #1 efficient offensive team. Against everybody, we ended up being 12, which makes no sense, right? Makes absolutely no sense. But that's what we did. I thought we made a big jump. We were in the 80s the previous year, and we ended up 22 or 23, but we ended up 14 against the top 100. Once again, it makes no sense, right? We're better against better competition. But that's just I thought our guys really worked hard at it. I thought we did a lot of good things on that end, and I thought Zach got better as a defender. I thought his ball screen defense was better. I thought his post defense was better. We're the number one team in the country in fewest fouls. So, and we got fouled a lot. So we're the number one country also, team in the country in free throw disparity. So we committed the fewest amount of fouls and we got fouled a lot. So you're stealing a lot of points there on the free throw line. So that's something for us that can't change. We have to keep doing that. And when you do things of that nature and you do positive things offensively, it helps you defensively. And so where we get into it, the problem is when we turn the basketball over and we shoot a high volume of threes with a low percentage, like we struggle no matter what the scenario is. And like that's what you got to try to minimize. But everybody struggles in that, When you say someone had a bad game, you go look at a box score, you normally stare at something. You normally stare at turnovers. You normally stare at a lack of rebounding, and things of that nature. Because you lose that possession battle and you turn the basketball over a lot, you're going to be in trouble.
Seemed like ball pressure would be an emphasis as well.
Yeah. We don't turn people over very much. And so if you're going to be average to above average and taking care of the basketball, and then you're poor in forcing turnovers, which we were, like now you're not getting as many possessions as you want, even though where we get our possessions is on the offensive glass. We get a lot of offensive rebounds. So, but if you take care of the ball and you get offensive rebounds, you're really going to help yourself. Then you start forcing turnovers. So I don't think we're going to be, we have some guys like Miles and Cam that he mentioned, that give us that length on the wing. We just got to be more active. We got to be more active with our hands without getting out of defensive position, because we have to be able to turn people over at times.
Matt, it's been you talked about living in it after last year.
Yeah.
What's been your approach with the players on that? Because
Yeah.
the honest approach is,
Right.
what happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want that ghost out of the closet too much in the coming season, though.
Right.
How do you kind of handle that dynamic with them?
Yeah, well, a lot of times when people say things and they get bogged into it, like you got to look at the validity of it. Like it's true. Like, you know what I mean? I think you got to get over that hurdle first. Like you want to dismiss everything and push everything to the side, but that's not the case. Like we got beat by St. Peter's in the Sweet 16. We got beat by Farley Dickinson in the first round. Like, sit in it, but don't run from anything. You always face things. I think when you face things, it's harder, but that's what kind of brings the demons out and really helps you, because now you have a little bit more drive. Now you're a little bit more focused. Just the more attention to detail than anything. So we discussed it when we got back. We took a bus trip back and just talked about all the great things that we did last year, but that happened. When we got back in the summer, we met and we talked about it. Like when we got here in the fall, like we discussed it. I don't think it's anything that we're going to put away. We'll get asked about it a lot. So I think you guys will do your part, making sure we keep talking about it. But it is a storyline. Like sometimes, like you guys search out a narrative that really isn't there. It'd make for a good story if it was true, but you're trying a little bit too hard. Well, this is here and it's true. And so use it as motivation, but be honest about things. Like as a coach, you're always trying to help your players, but you can fix yourself a lot better than you can fix somebody else. So that's what I always talk about. Like when we're messed up, like make sure I'm fixing like what I'm seeing and what I'm doing, because a lot of times you do things that wins in this league, but it might not be the best for your personnel. So like people don't know how to sometimes adjust to somebody like Zach. Like it's a hard adjustment because they can't have him in practice. So like now if you can't get to where you adjust to him, like we're not going to go away from that. Like we're going to stay with that. But then sometimes there's difficulties there for us where we got more, we got a lot more weapons too. So I think the balance will really help us. I think Trey Kaufman-Rinn's improvement, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer going into their sophomore years, and just finding, because every one of those guys can shoot, but just kind of finding that collection of individuals that are going to play and shoot with confidence, because we collectively kind of lost our confidence at the end of the year. Even though we won 5 games in a row before we got beat, we still were, if you go look at our percentages, they weren't very good. But we played hard, and in a couple of those games, we just didn't turn the ball over.